Hello and welcome to Music Industry Monday with your boy Avio on the microphone. And today I have some very interesting topics for you. And boy, has it been a weekend of various news. And I have some improvements here in the studio as well for me, but you can't see them. I got a little armrest on here. And I also have a little speaker to where I could possibly turn off the headphones, and then you get to see me for the first time in a very long time, or in forever, without headphones, because I realized the other day that I have never streamed without headphones in I would say what is the better part of I don't know, 3 years. And it's always been really hot, because, and as the summer is coming and it's really hot, I was thinking to myself, why am I always streaming with headphones, invisible headphones? No, it's because I have the sound routed through the speaker, and, if I'm actually reviewing music, I can put them back on. So there's that. And I have a armrest here because I have, what is it called? RSI, repetitive strain injury, something like that. All right, so now that's actually super weird, because I'm used to I'm used to hearing myself in the phones and doing the right pronunciation and everything, in the headphones. Invisible Avicab. Hey Bonnie, hey Megan, hey Yo-Yo. How you doing? Okay, so the topics for today, two of them, and welcome to everybody on Reddit, by the way, as well, is record labels useless as the crypto world burns. I tied those two together in a line that they're not necessarily related, although they're somewhat related in the area of NFT. But I read some things today that made me want to, hey Lottie, say some things about what's happening with crypto, because some very extraordinary things are happening that are related to the relationship of big tech companies and normal people. And you know that I'm always talking about the relationship between big tech companies and artists, and this is why I want to touch on that. I can't pinpoint your accent, Irish. I'm actually Austrian. I used to live in America for about a few years, I would say. I used to live in Virginia there. So what you're hearing is a mixture between a German accent and a Virginia accent, I would say. But I have been professionally using English for a very long time because I did a lot of international work for the better part of my career. And I actually spent most of my life, my professional life, talking English at a very high percentage of the languages that I used. Because I did a lot of foreign work. So yeah, I'm not Irish, even though, old Mac, what would it be? Macavillo? Something like that. I don't know. All right, so guys, I want to first go. What am I going to do first? Am I going to do the crypto stuff first, or am I going to do the music stuff first? That's really interesting, because on both fronts we have some very interesting news and some very interesting developments. And I'm not sure what to do first. But let's go with crypto first, because this is a music industry Monday. You want some red hair dye, Avi? Yes, that's right. So a lot of you have probably found out, and if you're artists, you might be, looking into NFTs and creating NFTs for your music, and doing things like that. And you're probably aware that the value of your NFT, if you choose to do that, is determined by the underlying cryptocurrency that the NFT the chain the NFT is on. It's usually Ether, and so the price of Ether heavily impacts, or essentially sets, the price for NFTs. So over the last few days, all the cryptocurrencies have dropped to about a third of the price that they were before. They kind of like fell down and went boom, losing most of their value in a matter of weeks. And they're cratering now at levels that were not seen for multiple years. So far, nothing spectacular. I've always said it's a highly speculative asset, and it essentially has no value behind it. But it's interesting technology, even for musicians. What I've seen, though, and this is something else. Is that some of the large players in crypto are now acting almost like a Spotify for musicians. We have received reports that Binance bought $2 billion in Bitcoin. We have received information that Sol essentially disowned people and took over their wallets. And all of these decisions and all of these actions were made possible by a very small group of people. Probably means nothing to you so far, so let me tell you what it's all about. So there was one incident that happened to where a company had a what's called DeFi, a decentralized finance protocol, to where people are saying, and this is important now for artists, it's a decentralized type of money, it's a decentralized type of organization, and people vote in order to allow rules to happen. And these rules are then enforced on the blockchain. So the idea was to have a currency or a technology for distributing your music, for example, and the network that supplies this currency, supplies this kind of like file sharing thing, would be governed democratically by people voting, you know? So let's say 100 of us get together and we make together a blockchain, we make tokens, we sell music as NFTs, and if something happens that we want to have changed, we all get together. One developer proposes the assumption of a certain amount of code that would do certain things to the already deployed smart contracts. And then people vote on it, and they can essentially, it's kind of like a legislative process. So you would vote on it, the law would either pass into effect or it would not pass into effect, but people would have a say about it, and the person proposing the change, the law, would say, I am proposing to adopt this bit of code, and that would change our relationship together such and such that music would now be 20% more expensive. For example, I'm just making up an example. And then many people thought it's actually a really good idea. You could have these self-governing agencies that were essentially were people that invest money, for example, in an artist, or they invest money in music, could have a say of how things are going to go. They could say, you know, we want this to be done or we want that to be done. They would have an actual stake in what an artist does, what a label does, and the label, the artist, and the fans would somehow form like a community of democratically made governance for, I don't know, content or other stuff. Very interesting stuff to me, I have to say. Thank you for helpful Gaetano, by the way. Because this is, and here's a question. Ladi says, so any artists that were signed with the idea of being NFT artists, what's their plan now? Well, NFTs have just cut their value into a third. So if you ever bought an NFT, it's now worth 30% of what it used to be then. This kind of volatility makes it extremely difficult for people to sell NFTs, because if you as an artist want to sell NFTs, the person buying it from you, and I know that Lottie is a graphical artist, and with her it's actually really a consideration, because we wanted to go ahead and have some of her art be NFT, because she actually makes art. It's not some random made up shit that people sell as NFTs, and then people could buy it. The underlying problem being, if the currency that you use to buy the NFT today is worth $1 and tomorrow is worth 10 cents, then somebody is going to be left holding a bag. So somebody's going to get screwed over. And if it's not the artist and the label, then it's the fan. One party loses money because the value of crypto is so unstable. But we don't want that. We don't want people to buy our music or to buy our art and then to completely be shafted We want that our customers are actually happy, that people, when they buy art or they buy music from us, that they have something of decent value that would maybe increase in value or that would at least be stable. But I don't want to sell people stuff for $10 and 2 days later it's worth 50 cents. Because that makes people very unhappy, and that makes me contemplate if that is a wise decision to do that, because we would make so many of our customers very, very unhappy. So there's this problem with volatility, but let's continue onwards. I'm going to come back to the volatility. So this Democratic panel kind of like decides everything that goes. So 2 days ago, I think it was 2 days ago or it was a day ago, I got the news that this had happened with a decentralized finance company, to where there was one user in the system that was a very wealthy user, and he had lots of money in his wallet. They call these people whales, like, because they're big. And this person did not want to do what the group wanted him to do. So there's a group of XYZ, however many hundred people, and then there's a very rich person that didn't want to do what the group wanted them to do, and the group was like, look, you have to do this or it's going to be bad for us. I don't know the specifics. Actually, I do know the specifics, but it's too boring. And they couldn't get the guy to respond or to do anything. And then they did something that really astounded me. They implemented a vote to take control away from the money from that guy. They essentially disowned him. So they put up a vote and said, let's disown this guy, take ownership of his wallet, do with his money as we see fit, and, screw him. Maybe we'll give it back later. And that's a very intense moment for every economist, when you are a group of people, and at the very end of the day, you have a customer who is invested heavily in you, and then somebody says, hey, let's just take that guy's money. Now, I understand it's annoying when a rich person doesn't do what you want them to do, but to say, hey, let's just take his money, is a bit of a reach, I would say. I don't know how rich that person was. I don't know the background of that person or anything like that, but it's weird. So we are now in this decentralized finance institution where people have this somewhat communist idea that they're going to disown this rich person. Something that I would personally say is weird at the very least. I would vote no to this, because I cannot see that. Maybe it's some kind of developer and he worked all his life to get a few $100,000 and he then invested it, and now you want to just take it away from him. I cannot get behind anything to where you just take away stuff from people for no reason other than they're not reacting to what you want. They might be on fucking holiday. You know what I mean? They might not check their wallet. They might not participate in the forum or the democracy. Just fucking absent. So the group decides to take a vote on disowning the rich person. And the company that owns the token, that made the token, and that stands to benefit from disowning the person because the money would go to the company, sets up a code and proposes that code to be implemented as law on that blockchain. And the code essentially says, we are going to take charge of his wallet, we're going to take his money, we're going to do this and this. with the money, and then eventually we're gonna give it back, maybe. Yeah, like okay. So the code changes would be in a way that the person would lose access to their money, and their money would be repossessed by the privately owned and ran company that made that blockchain and emitted that token. So the vote starts, and as people expect in decentralized finance, hundreds and possibly thousands or 10,000s of people are coming to vote. And they're all coming to vote, and they're all voting, and everybody's voting, and there's a lot of people who are voting. And at the end of the day, something happens that nobody had thought of. And it exposed the whole system for what it is. Because the vote was over when just one person had voted. And that one person voted, and they had 55% of the total votes. So one vote was cast, and it was yes. And 55% of all the tokens voted yes with that one vote. It was one party. One party had secretly controlled 55% of all the tokens in that decentralized blockchain. And people were like, wow, we probably wanted to vote yes anyway, but some would want to vote no. But that all tens of thousands of us together have fewer votes than that one person is really weird. And it's really crazy. How can that be? And how is that decentralized? How is that democratic? And how is that fair? And people were like, well, who the fuck is that one person? And so, since it's very hard to make anything really, really secret on the blockchain, they looked it up, and guess what they found? That one person was the company that owned the blockchain and that emitted the token. The company that emitted the token, that created this currency, had secretly kept enough tokens in order to have 55% of the total vote, and they voted to disown another rich person in favor of themselves, effectively making this a fraud. Because if I can vote, if I entice you to come into a system to where you put your money in a bank, but I secretly have a mechanism in place to where I can vote myself affirmation that I can steal your money, that's what we call a fraud. And this is going on today and yesterday, and this is what's called decentralized unregulated finance, because what it means is that the person with the power can do everything they want, because it's decentralized, it's unregulated, and it's fully fraudulent, all of it. And this is the lesson for the musicians. If you want to sell your music and you want to sell your art, be wary of fraudulent platforms, because your customers will get fucked, and then they will be unhappy with you. Now, some of you know that very early in the crypto game, I minted my own currency. It's called Buildcoin. It's actually a registered currency. Very few people know about it. We have not emitted it ever. But I had planned on giving it away for free for supporting artists. And I have essentially stopped these plans because with what's going on currently in crypto and millions of people losing everything to what is very thinly clad scams is incredible. So this was news number one. It was very interesting to me the company that voted in a completely democratic process to take ownership of somebody else's money. Very, very, very interesting. And the next thing that I heard was that one of the biggest brokerage companies, Binance, has heavily started purchasing crypto assets to stop the price from falling. Now, some of you might think it's not very interesting. In the real world, you'd go to jail for that. Because if you, as the stock market company, are trying to massively influence the prices, that's not only insider trading, but that's like 50 other violations there. So Binance, which is a company that allows you to trade cryptocurrency, is afraid that it and cryptocurrency is going to die. So they are pumping billions into cryptocurrency and purchasing it in order to drive the price up so that the entirety of the crypto world doesn't burn and their company doesn't get destroyed. However, by doing that, they are becoming a dishonest broker. They're becoming a bad faith actor. And they're doing a massive amount of insider trading because they're purchasing assets on their own exchange in order to prevent their own company from collapsing. There's so many things that are illegal in this that I'm going to be absolutely thrilled to see the legal fallout from this happening. So, and these are just, I'm going to wrap it up now. These are just two examples of what's happening. Currently, everybody is protecting their own ass. A lot of people are doing things that are completely 1000% illegal in any legal system anywhere in the world. They're currently getting away with it because there's no law enforcement in cryptocurrency and there's no regulation yet. But we are seeing millions of people who have lost everything in the last 3 days, 3 to 4 days, probably a week. And this amount of people who have lost everything is probably a double-digit million amount. So we're thinking currently that about 15 million people have lost everything that they have invested in cryptocurrencies so far. And it's going to be even more. But hey, Venomous Salamander. But what's more is that the companies that make up the backbone of cryptocurrency and that for now have always said, we are for the little guy, we are for decentralized, we are for democratic, have shown themselves to be nothing but frauds. And this is a very common theme to where very big companies are exploiting smaller people and under the guise of being their friends. And the reason why I'm saying this is, number one, because it impacts musicians that would want to participate in the blockchain. By the way, if you still want to do it, Count Zero Records has you covered. We're looking into good ways to do that. And we're not going to work with any company that is associated with any of these shenanigans. Quite frankly, we're not going to work with any company at all because we're technologically well set up so that we can do it by ourselves. If you want to know more about this, let me know. But this is what it is. And it's kind of like Spotify all over again. It's a very large company or very large companies just completely defrauding everybody in any way, that the shape or form that they wanted to. And Venomous Salamander says, crypto did not appeal to me from the beginning. It appealed to me. It still appeals to me. But and it's the same thing to me as Spotify. Ladi says, we're actively looking at selling NFTs. We are looking to sell digital assets once we have a value stable blockchain that we can put our tokens on. Our tokens are currently on the Ethereum blockchain, and I'm not going to sell goods on Ethereum at the moment because people would be able to lose everything, and I don't. I'm like 1,000% that's not going to happen. But once we find a way, I would like to continue to work with this technology. But I'm not willing to participate in the fraudulent environment that mostly American companies have created in crypto at the moment. But yeah, we're still looking into NFTs, ERC-271 tokens, and other tokens as well. So it's the same way that I feel about Spotify. Spotify could have been a great boon for all artists. It could have been a platform to where artists can upload their music, they can sell their music, people can freely search for it. And what it turned into was a greedy, fraudulent, unethical shitfest that is currently taking all the money from artists. And it's exactly what happened with crypto. It could have been something really good, but it turned into the biggest shitfest on the planet. And this is the problem with big tech companies. People, once they become billionaires, obviously no longer have a brain. I don't know what's going on, and I don't know why it is that as soon as people see money, all of their decency turns off and they become pure frauds. And this is very disappointing to me. But what can I say? I hope we can move past this. Venom says, when it's properly established and properly regulated, then I would get interested. That's exactly right, Venomous. The point is that I don't want our artists to speculate on the blockchain. We are looking into a way for our artists to distribute their music, their graphics, their poems, their videos through a decentralized, networked system that is not beholden to a big company. And crypto has just proven beyond the shadow of a doubt that it's even worse than Spotify. And this is why. So the current state of crypto is that it's like Spotify on steroids. Not only will they take all of your money, they will also do everything that's illegal to take your money. But this is not the interest that we as a label or as an artist collective have. We want to put our art out there. I don't want to. The point for us is not to speculate with our art. The point is for us to be able to put art on a web page and for somebody to come with their wallet and say, oh, cool, I'm going to get that, bing, and get it into their wallet, pay the amount of crypto, whatever it is. It's done in 2 seconds, and they have acquired it without a real money transaction where we have to pay a lot of fees and central and middlemen are involved. Especially for independent artists, the involvement of middlemen has been always such a horrible drag. And Spotify, for example, is nothing else but a middleman. They're not somebody who creates any value. They essentially have a Black Knight business model where they say, none shall pass unless you pay me. There's nothing they contribute, and it's pretty much the same with the big players in the crypto sphere. They don't really contribute anything. They just scam the fuck out of everybody. So, yeah. I don't know where it's going to go. Sadly, I think it's going to be at least 1 to 2 years before we get to a situation to where legitimate users of the blockchain will take over from speculators, and that will only be true or possible once the entire business is fully regulated. People always said, it's very important for us to be anonymous. You're not anonymous on Facebook. You're not anonymous on Instagram. You're not anonymous on Spotify. You're not anonymous on Tidal. You're not anonymous on iTunes. You're anonymous nowhere. But you need to be anonymous with your fucking NFTs where you buy a monkey graphic. The only reason why I could possibly think of that is because you need to launder money. And you need to do tax evasion. Nobody, and I'm gonna go out on a limb here. None of our customers need to be anonymous when they buy music. None of our customers need to be anonymous when they buy a graphic, when they buy a painting, when they buy something. I mean, if they want it to be, that will be okay with me. And the anonymity is not towards us because we don't get your payment data anyway, but the payment processor gets your data. So we as Count Zero Records don't have your data, but we get the money from PayPal, and PayPal has your money, your fucking payment data, And Venomous is saying, do you mine crypto? No, we were very early in the game. We were contemplating about becoming Ethereum 2 stakers or verifiers. But we decided against it because of exactly what's happening right now. Because whenever you stake cryptocurrency, you're completely open to loss of value of principal asset, which is a huge problem. And the active mining, Bitcoin mining, we also did a business plan for that, but we very quickly found out that what we have to deal here is what we call in energy, we call it a merit order curve, to where only the cheapest miners survive. And the cheapest miners are always miners who are in companies that are in countries that are essentially third world countries or worse, because it's all about the power price. So the lowest power price will dictate who has the most efficient mining operation. So it's a race to the bottom and a race to exploit power in developing countries. We had a great business plan for a Bitcoin mining operation in Ethiopia, but I don't know. This is not the kind of business that I want to do, and this is not the kind of business that would make me happy every day. Going to a developing country and essentially stealing their cheap power. What the fuck? And then of course mining in a Western country doesn't pay at all. Just forget about it. People are mining in China, people are mining in Ukraine, people are mining in Russia, people are mining in countries in Africa and things like that. There is no significant amount of mining going on anywhere in Europe or the US. And even though there's so much hype, yes, I'm mining here, I'm mining there, the real big mining operations are going on completely somewhere else, because of course power in America is far too expensive to be efficient. It's just what they want to show. They want to, because look, the argument was always Bitcoin is made by Russians for Russians, and the accusation was always that Bitcoin exists only so that Russian criminals can launder their money, and for that they started mining it. They set up the mining operations. And it's peculiar that the largest amount of calculation power and mining goes on in Russia, Ukraine, China, and other former Soviet countries. So if you were to make a statement, which country is crypto, it's the USSR. The USSR and China cover most of the ground in crypto. And Americans pretend like it's theirs somehow. But of course, it's American exchanges, it's American influencers, it's American billionaires that are driving the big frauds that are going on there, and it's the Eastern Bloc countries that are mining it, that are putting up the computing power and things like that. Okay, I think I've talked about it long enough, but yeah, I like the technology. I would like to eventually go ahead and use the technology for us. I think that by the time we get around to doing that, it's no longer going to be called NFT. It's going to be something else. But I definitely want to see a lot of Pidgey's art turned into digital assets. I think that would be very cool, and a lot of people would really enjoy that. So for now, you can just buy her art on. I think Record Label Boss has one of her graphics up as merch, for a T-shirt, as a printed out poster, etc. You can always pay in dollars. It's still working, Oh man. Okay, so lots of people are messaging me now with what is going on. Okay, so this is this. So my advice to you, if you're listening, if you want to take my advice, don't do anything there at the moment. A lot of people are saying buy it now while it's low. The point is that it could go to zero. So if you invest money now, it could be nothing tomorrow. Especially now that today I heard that there is so much fraud going on. And with all of that, they're just barely holding it alive. If there was not fraudulent support for cryptocurrency, by now it would probably be dead. So I don't know. I wouldn't. All right. If you have any more questions, you're welcome to ask. I just want to make one middle ground argument. I recently posted in Reddit on Fatfire because there's a discussion about should you entrust your money to financial advisors? And there was a lot of financial advisory going on in the early days of crypto, and still is. There's millions of people trying to tell you what to do with your money. And I posted in there a comment that I wanted to share with you because it got quite a few likes. And I said there, in 30 years of being an economist, I have never once met a financial advisor that has provided any value. And that is because financial advisors' business model is not to increase your capital. Financial advisors' business model is to sell advisory services. The people that get promoted in an advisory company are the people that sell the most services. It's not the people that make the most money. Because it's irrelevant how much money you make for the customer, because these guys are usually paid a fixed amount of money and they don't get huge participations on the growth of money. So what's happening is that the entire industry is one where specifically people are out to get you hooked and to get you bought into various products that they have no stake in, and that they will not make you more money. So whatever financial advisor you meet, don't believe them, because 99.99% of them, number one, are not actually financial advisors. They're usually people who have made some secondary education to where you go somewhere for 2 weeks and then you get some kind of paper that says you're now a financial advisor. That's number one, a complete joke. Number two, even the people that went to university like I did, if you're not consistently working in that field, or you're interested in it, or you keep update with it, then you don't know anything about it. And most of the people that work as sales agents in a financial advisory firm are not economists at all. They're salespeople. So your financial advisor that you have been talking to is a salesperson. They're not a financial advice specialist at all, because there's actually no financial advice specialists at a financial advisory firm. There are sales specialists at a financial advisory firm, and they generally sell bullshit. So take it from me. If you want to invest in something, learn about it yourself. Find a company that you believe in and invest in it. That's it. End of story. Buy their stocks and keep them. And if you believe in a company and some years later they are good, buy the stocks of a company that makes great audio products. Not saying who it is. If you're a musician, and you got some money and you think, wow, this company really has great products, buy some stocks from those people. If you have, buy stock from companies that you personally enjoy, and that you're competent to judge, because then you have already done the first phase of due diligence, and that is to evaluate if the product that the company you're trying to invest in is actually good. So if you're a musician and you are qualified to judge if that synthesizer is good, that microphone is good, and you say, wow, this company always makes great microphones, makes great headphones. See, then you as an expert have already judged that the product of this company is really good. Of course, there could always be something wrong with management, but that's always the case. So invest in companies where you have the ability to determine if they're actually good or not. And Vani says, Lotta should put me a slip in the CCR graphic since I'm part 2 now. Ik verproviseer. Hey Chinvar, how are you doing? Venomous Salamander says, what do you do? I'm currently the president of Count Zero Records and on the board of various other companies that I founded in 2018. I had a corporate career before 2018 and I quit after decades of working in corporate, big corporate. And I said, got everything done here what I wanted to. I really don't like it anymore. I'm going to start my own companies now. And I haven't regretted it. It's been very difficult. Truthfully, it's been very difficult. But it's also been very, very interesting. May you live in interesting times. But yeah, I started my life as an electronics engineer. This is why I have this connection to audio and signal processing and things like that, and operating a studio. And then I studied economy and became an economist, mostly in M&A, business development, and innovations. Working in asset acquisition in the beginning, traveling various countries and looking for assets to acquire. Doing valuations, and also doing PhD in sociology. So, when you're old, you have done a lot of stuff. Oh, how you have done so much? I'm like, yeah, because I'm 30 years older than you. Most people are like that, Of course, if you live longer, you've done more. All right. So, the second topic that I'm gonna take a sippy of my cup. So I'm gonna wrap up this topic about crypto and about music and crypto and blockchain and all this stuff with the thing that we're definitely interested. We have all the capabilities, and as soon as it's safe, we're gonna get back into it. But we're not gonna put our customers in a situation to where they have to participate in a fraudulent system, to where their shit will be taken away, to where their money is lost. None of that. I'm not doing that to my people. So if you have any questions to that, ask them now. Other than that, I'm switching to the other topic. Cue the music. Cue some kind of drinking music. Oh my god, hold on, where's it at? Where's it at? I had this very, very interesting thing here. What is it? I gotta add a new one. I had it here. Where did I put it? Oh yeah. Oh, this. Hold on, I'll put that. I have to put it a little bit in the back. Can you? I'll just leave it here on the side. Man starting to wonder if he shouldn't have invested his life savings in an imaginary token, saying he owns a digital painting of a cartoon monkey. that is so awesome. I love that. All right. So, okay, no more questions. Good. Recently, I had some discussions with people, and I have been very intensively talking about the future of the music industry and what it means for us and how we can go on as Count Zero Records. And I'm going to make this in a way to where I'm not giving away too many things, but still let you in a little bit on my train of thought, because it is Music Industry Monday. So obviously profits for a lot of artists are drying up as streaming income is really low. Most artists have to sell merchandise, and number one income is from performing. So the current model of master ownership doesn't really work. For those of you that are not artists, a master is essentially the original copy of a song that the artist has the copyrights to, and he can then assign these copyrights, for example, to a label to exploit it for him, or he can sell it himself and get money for it, etc. These rights are called master rights because they're the originating rights of a musical work. And these master rights used to be what everything was about. Everything was about the masters. The person that owned the masters owned the song, owned all the money, had all the rights to make all the money, and it was just awesome and great. But then one thing happened that nobody had thought of. Master rights became useless. And at this point, master rights are essentially worthless. So more and more companies are saying, well, if master rights are worthless, why are we making contracts for them? And of course, I haven't explained yet why master rights are worthless. Very simple, because platforms aren't paying for them anymore. So in America, they decided that they were going to make a law. It was in the, when was it, about 10 years ago? Or was it more? It was more. It was in hand with the DMCA, and this law is called Safe Harbor. I probably talked about it quite a few times. It essentially says that people like YouTube and others don't have to pay you for your music. The ifs, buts, and wheres, let's not get into that. I did it so many times. But all of a sudden, people weren't getting paid for owning the master rights anymore because there was a law that said certain platforms don't have to pay for master rights anymore. And these platforms coincidentally took over the internet. So the situation that you have now is that 99.9% of the stuff that is sold today is sold by companies that don't have to pay you master rights. And therein lies, of course, a huge problem. And of course, these companies would dispute it, and they would say, yeah, we are still paying. And nominally, they're paying you 0.000000001 cent for a play or something like that. It's a fee that is so incredibly tiny that even if the whole fucking world listens to your song, you're still not rich. And in this situation where master rights aren't worth anything, the only income that artists have now is merchandise and mostly performance. And these things are not covered under the master license. So yesterday's gold, the master license, has become today's crap. Because now nobody's interested in your master rights anymore. Nobody's interested in any of that shit, because where the money comes in is completely somewhere else. Which means in the short term, recording contracts are going to change, and whoops, we already did. From now on, we're going to make our recording contracts different, and it's going to continue to reflect the changes of the music industry to where master rights aren't worth anything anymore. That means that people, and this is now so weird that I'm saying this, will not be able to get recording contracts with us anymore unless they're really good. It used to be that you as a label were trying to convince people to sign recording contracts with you because you wanted to have these master rights and it would work out for you. And now all a recording contract is that you will have some artist that you're going to have to baby around for 3 years while they're not making any kind of money for you, and they're keeping all the stuff that really makes money completely to themselves. So we're moving into a situation to where the contracts that artists have complained about for such a long time, they're taking my masters, they're doing this, they're doing that, and all the controversy that you probably heard over the last years, it's all ending. And it's not because of artists, it's because it doesn't make business sense anymore. Everything that the artists had dreamed about in the last few years is now actually coming true. They're not getting recording contracts anymore, and nobody wants to put them in recording contracts anymore. There's going to be recording contracts for people that make, I don't know, north of 100,000 a year. Number one, that are number two, supremely qualified and hardworking and extremely good, to where the label says working for this person for free for 3 years somehow still makes sense for us, even though we're not going to get paid for anything. I can iterate to you on what it is that a lot of people are thinking. So recording contracts are essentially a thing of the past. A lot of artists don't realize that. They're still looking for the major recording contract. They're still complaining about their master rights being taken from them. And I can tell you that the discussions that we are now having are, why are you not offering me a recording contract? I cannot tell you how funny that is to me, because for the last 4 years, all I did was to justify why I'm offering a recording contract and why the things are as they are. And now that we're no longer offering them by default and instead offering management contracts, everybody's like, well, I'm not getting a recording contract. I'm like, I don't know. Are you making money? You know? And it's crazy, but this is how labels are changing. And then this is the interesting part for today, there's another implication. If you're no longer making recording contracts with artists, and you could might as well just, oh, here goes Reddit. It's gone. The things I said broke Reddit. That's why it's better to watch on other places, Twitch or something else. All right, let me turn off the monkey. I think that was really funny. I just want to say it again. Man starting to wonder if he shouldn't have invested his life savings in an imaginary token saying he owns a digital painting of a cartoon monkey. So funny. These monkeys have sold for an average of $300,000 US, in case you don't know. They're the Bored Apes. So all of the people that invested there are now proud owners of a $100,000 NFT. And once the crash continues, they will effectively have lost all of their $300,000. But don't worry, these are all people that are incredibly rich trust fund kids anyway, so it's not going to matter to them if their dad is going to have to pony up some extra money. And Reddit is back. Very good. So we're going to go ahead and talk about how labels are going to change in the future and what does it all mean for us, artists and labels alike. So if you don't need a recording contract because it's essentially bullshit, because your master rights aren't worth anything, then you're not a classical label anymore. You're not investing money into an artist and hoping his music sells so the money comes back with a return on investment. That business model is essentially almost dead. It now works for almost no artist at all anymore. Maybe 20 artists in the world, 30, 40, maybe 100 to 200, 300 artists in the world. This model works. But for out of the 5.5 million releasing artists in the world, this model will work for a very, very tiny amount of people. And everybody else, this model will just simply not work for anymore because there's nothing to recuperate. Even if the song you get 10 million plays, you get what, $9,000, $10,000? What is that? I don't know. You can make half a music video for that. It's a fucking joke. You're never gonna recoup your money from master rights. So what's gonna happen? Labels will not invest in artists anymore. That's the first thing that's going to happen. There's not going to be any advance. There's not going to be any down payment. There's not going to be any money fronted. There's going to be nobody who will invest in artists anymore. And the person that will have to make sure that there's money coming to the artist to invest in the artist will be, you guessed it, the artist. So artists will start to look increasingly to bank loans and to other forms of income, such as crowdfunding and friends and family, to finance their own project, thereby assuming most of the risk of the financial risk of art themselves in a very interesting thing. As it will be talked last week, so I don't miss it if I go to eat. I don't know, Vanessa. Yeah, but it is what we talked about, Vanessa, pretty much. Everybody thinks the same. I talked to Vanessa, I talked to René Luengo, Dominic Fritz, I talked to so many people in the industry, and everybody thinks the same. It's essentially crazy. So nobody wants to have your master rights anymore, and nobody's going to invest in you anymore. That means that horrible situation that artists always had, to where they had an advance and they needed to pay it back, and the label gave them money and then they were owing them money. All of that is going to be gone. Within 2 to 3 years, that will be completely a thing of the past, and nobody will give a shit. Nobody will give anybody a recording contract for any reason, because nobody's going to want to have master rights because they're essentially worthless. So, how does the artist then go about doing his stuff? You or we or I, and I always did that, will have to come up with the money yourself. I, as an artist, have always said, I don't need anybody to finance me. I'm not going to put myself in the arms or the hands of somebody who then controls me by giving me money. And if I ever needed money, I would take it from a fucking bank. Because believe it or not, banks have much better conditions than record labels. And even though you do have to pay them back, they will make absolutely no impact on your life, and they will not tell you what to do, and they will not interfere with you in any way. So what I see coming in the future is a lot of artists doing secondary jobs, even more than now. People taking up bank loans, and people looking for alternative sources of funding to fund their own art projects. Now, you might be asking, what are now all of these labels doing? And they will be doing pretty much the same things as before. Why? Because the current music industry system still works pretty much the same that it did in the 70s. The distribution channels have changed. Technology has changed, but the underlying system of rights, of how copyright works, how intellectual property works, still is the same as 100 years ago. Nothing has changed, and especially the part of promotion, networking, getting your artist out there, running advertisement for them hasn't changed at all. Bribing people to play your artist's music hasn't changed at all. Same thing as before. Labels are going to do the very same thing as before, minus getting people in recording contracts. So what is that going to mean for labels? Labels are going to become service providers for artists. They no longer have a financial stake in the artist, and fuck me if I'm ever going to sign a recording contract with anybody, excuse my French. If you're not pulling in a decent amount of money, you're not getting our full services for free anymore. This is very liberating, because this has been a constant source of problems for us, because we have been offering a wide range of services for people, and people have essentially many times not held up their part, violated the contract, behaved horribly, and made it very difficult for us to work with them and to put them anywhere, quite frankly. There's hardly any artist on our label that is in full compliance with the recording contract, and that should tell you quite something. So people don't approach recording contracts with the seriousness that is required, and they just mostly fuck around. They're like, yeah, let's fuck around, let's try to see how much money we can get from these guys. So I'm going to be very happy that I don't have to do recording contracts anymore, because to me it was always very difficult. And I don't want to negotiate 3-year contracts with these long periods, and then I am obligated to give all of the services of the label to these people for free. Wow. You know, and a lot of people don't even... If you think that completely working for free for somebody for 3 years will earn you any kind of respect, you're completely mistaken. These people will be completely behind schedule, disappear off the planet, of the face of the planet for 6 months, only to call you and then to complain to you why you haven't done more for them. And this is all about the change, and I'm very happy about that. So from now on, they're going to be responsible for coming up with the cash for their campaigns and everything for themselves, which is going to be great. What will labels do? Same thing they've done before. Publishing, distribution, mixing, mastering, listening to demos, grading music, sending stuff to radio stations, TV stations, blogs, playlisting, promoting, creating productions, participating in song contests, and a whole wall full of stuff that I've been writing over there on my flip chart. So over there on my flip chart, I'm planning the way that a new label works. And it's essentially the same services, but the business model is a different one. And the business model is essentially very simple. Artist pays everything. It's APE. APE! Just like the Bored Ape Yacht Club. It's the apes. Ape. Artist pays everything. Yeah. And I should totally copyright that. Vani says she's not even part of the music industry. Well, you are now. You are now. So the new business model for all of us on how we work together is Ape. Artist pays everything, and in return, artist will receive very defined services, nothing more, nothing less. Will have the ability to complain about the services not being rendered incorrect, and that's it. I think this is a great step forward. It leads to a much more professional relationship that artists will have with labels as they finally understand how much shit costs. I don't think any artist has ever understood, and I know they don't, how much money we put into advertising them and how little money they put in. And I think it's going to be a reckoning, and it's going to be, quite frankly, it's going to be extremely funny. Because I think the good labels, like we are and some other people are, that really do great services, are going to be able to survive. And they're actually going to be happy because for the first time, they're going to be like, yay, 30 grand a year, and you're all going to get to pay it yourself. Whoa, and artists be like, what, 30 grand, I can't afford it. Okay, have fun being an amateur. So labels will orient themselves to the APE model and microservices. So they will make very little services because artists generally tend to have not a whole lot of money cash on hand. So artists usually don't come up with a concise concept for advertising themselves, but instead buy buy a little bit here, buy a little bit here, buy a little bit here, and buy a little bit here. And that these things don't necessarily match, and they don't create a campaign they don't care about because they want to do it the way that they want to do it. And what I've seen when artists run their own campaigns, they're incredibly inconsistent. They're essentially just a random collection of stuff that they think is cool, and so usually it fails. But then, of course, I'm not going to have the discussion again with artists why their campaigns are failing and why I think they should do this. Quite to the contrary, now they will be paying for a consultation. So all the calls that I've been having with people where I'm consulting them for free for hours at a time, telling them how things work different than what they think things work, I'll now be able to bill. And I think that is going to be very interesting because we're going to have a lot less work. And the work that we're going to do is going to be paid a whole lot better. Of course, if there's like a big hit and you have an artist, you're not going to be participating in that big hit. But the problem is that these surprise big hits don't really happen. Anyway, so let's say the artist would have a huge hit and they would make 100 million of sales on it. And since you're not participating, you're not getting any of it. And the next day they say to you, yeah, fuck off, no longer require your services, that's it, goodbye. Fair enough, So what are you giving up as a label? You're giving up the 1 in a million chance of having an artist really blow up and being really successful and making a lot of money from him. But in return, you're going to be working for a decent salary and for decent pay, and you're going to be instantly able to afford your living. And I think that a lot of people would much rather be in an environment where they can do what they like and they have their regular salary, and not everything hinges on the unlikely chance of success of somebody becoming a superstar. overnight, and these like success stories of weirdness, So there's some more implications that this all is going to have that are on the back end of labels, where it gets really into the how do you run a ape label, how do you run the new music industry's business model. I think it's going to be years as people are step by step figuring out what's going on and changing their stuff into ape. And I have the business model for the label over there on current flip chart, that I'm extremely convinced is going to work out really well, and it's very, very different from what anybody has made so far. And I'm not gonna show it ever, maybe in 5 years from now, but this is kind of like what I'm thinking. What I'm telling you is essentially the what. I'm not telling you the how, because that'll be my thing. Even if I told you the how, it would be somewhat abstract, and you could come to it if you think about it. But my how is a lot more intricate than most people's how, because I used to teach business model generation at the university as well, like for a little bit. So that is one of the things. So it doesn't really make any kind of like larger sense for an artist to get into the inner workings of a label, but I think what artists will need to realize is that they will need to become fit in, number one, financing themselves, and number two, knowing which services to buy and from who. Because there is an enormous amount of fraudulent services out there. I went to Fiverr the other day, and upon first glance, I was not able to see one legit playlisting service. I did check various playlisting services on Fiverr. Now, of course, a lot of people are saying Fiverr is a stupid platform, is only Pakistani and some kind of Middle Eastern people that, render questionable services. It's kind of like the ghetto of the world in terms of freelancing. I was not able to find legit playlisting there. And I don't think that artists will have access to a whole of legit services. And now let me explain to you why. In the competition of services and the ever lowering price, people are competing each other against each other in playlisting. Sites like Fiverr, Upwork, Freelancer, etc., and also various other services in the world offer playlisting. Now, there are playlisting services that are used by the industry that are very little known websites where prices are extremely high. And artists generally never go there because as soon as they get to the website, there's two things that are lacking there that will make them turn away. Number one, no social proofing. These websites will typically not have huge media presence. They will not have a huge amount of followers. And there will be nothing on that website saying that this is, they will see no numbers. Artists are very oriented on numbers. And number two, prices are very high. They will identify these websites as being fraudulent. These websites are the real services. Artists will then go to websites where the services offered are very low priced, 10, 20 euro for playlisting, and people are showing you thousands to tens of thousands of followers that they have on their playlists. Those services are fraudulent. And artists will identify them as real. So what's happening here is that artists generally kind of like 180 degrees cannot cannot tell apart real from fake services, and will aggressively buy into fake services and will shun real services. So the competition for the ever cheaper fake service has been on for quite a while. And the only way that you can have extremely cheap fake services is, of course, botting. Everything goes with botting. It's all fake plays, fake playlists, fake followers, fake everything. And artists are generally happy because they see numbers. This is because a lot of artists are not trying to build a genuine audience. They're looking for numbers, searching for validation for themselves. They're not really looking to build an audience. They're looking to increase a number that they can show to their mother, their brother, their friend, whoever is doubting them, and say, look at how many plays I got. And every day I'm confronted with that. I have all that artists talk about is how many plays do I have? How many plays do you have? The fact that like this entire industry of independent music is almost completely based on fake plays, nobody cares about. And I always say to them, do you not have enough plays? And they say no. I say, okay, do you want to have 1 million plays tomorrow? And they're like, how is it possible? And I said, the way that everybody else does it. So as long as artists are looking at the wrong metrics, plays are not a metric at all. Amount of actual fans is a metric. Actual fan defined as a person who buys twice from you every year. If you have 1,000 fans, people that buy twice from you every year, with an average consumption of $15, they spend $30 on you per year. $30 times 1,000, that's a $30,000 revenue every year. With 1,000 actual fans, you can completely survive your artistic career. You can survive your artistic career with 500 actual fans. And most artists have 5 to 20 actual fans, independent artists that I know. The rest are people that would never pay anything for them, that will never come to the show, and the only thing they do is like upvote when they see a shirtless drummer. So all of this learning that has been done for decades at labels to find out how the industry really works will now have to be done by artists. Artists will now have to find out the hard way that the services that they're purchasing with their little money are completely ineffective. And if they want to buy effective services, they're going to have to fork over a whole lot more money. And they will find out that effectively promoting their music will require 2 things that they don't have. Number 1, extreme dedication and creativity. And number 2, lots of money. And usually they don't have either. And it's a little bit harsh for me to say, but the people that are really hustling self-advertising out there are not many. Out of like 50 people that you sign, there's maybe 2 or 3 bands that are actively self-advertising in an effective way where I would say, wow, these guys are really doing a great job. And then, of course, money, and nobody has money. So if you want to succeed as an indie artist in the future, in a future where there's only ape models and there's no recording contracts, you're gonna have to be a very, very effective self-promoter, and you're gonna have money, and those will go hand in hand. It's not a or, it's kind of like a and. You're gonna have to be this and that. And this will be a very, very small group of people. Out of 100 talented artists, that's usually one act that has these 2 things that go together. They, for some reason, have money because either from their parents or whatever it was, or they have a job, or they made money themselves, and they're excellent self promoters. Or of course they can use the money to buy advertisement. That's of course, but then you need more money. So it's money and self promotion that artists will have to wise up on, and service providers will be happy to offer them services, and then just to conduct that service, and then to see that it's completely ineffective for that artist, and then not care about it, because they were paid for the conduction of the service, not for the success of the artist. So I think you're going to see a huge paradigm shift as more and more people become extremely frustrated with music, because the music industry just got a lot more difficult. I didn't, like a month ago or 2 months ago, I made a stream. I said, I don't know where the music industry is going. For 2 months, I did nothing. I did very little else other than to think about it and to talk to people about it. And I'm now convinced that it's just gotten a whole lot more difficult, mostly for indie artists, not so much for other people, like songwriters, producers, etc. Their business model is kind of like the same, but it's going to affect artists the most. Because for labels, it's just a mental switch. I'm not going to charge you for this, but instead I'm going to charge you for that. The label is still going to do the same thing. They're just going to charge it in a different way. But for artists, it's really going to be a watershed moment, as they will have to juggle everything from taxes to copyright violations. It's going to be, they're going to have to grow an extra pair of hands just in order to keep up with all the stuff that they're going to have to do, or they're going to have to pony up the money to pay somebody for it. And the complexity of being an artist has just increased enormously, because if you want to be effective in self-promotion, you're going to have to be a very outgoing person and really, really effective in networking with important people, you know? Just about everybody's story, how they became famous, starts with meeting a famous person and that famous person doing something for them, you know? Kind of like the Skrillex and deadmau5 story and a million other stories where people got a chance after meeting somebody famous. And this increased complexity is going to be very difficult for artists. And it's going to take away time, significant time, from their creative time. Because from now on, you're going to spend 25% of your time being creative and 75% being on social media, promoting your shit, enforcing your copyright, fighting off fake copyright strikes on YouTube, trying to get your shit published, trying to get with sync placements, and all the many, many things that previously somebody else did. But you now have to do it because you don't have enough money to afford relevant service for that. So I think a lot of people will turn to this model that we already see emerging, which is DistroKid and forget it. And these are generally artists that never go anywhere. So they would just make the music and then they would just DistroKid and forget it. Put it on DistroKid, put it on Spotify, forget about it, come back a year later, it has 1,000 plays, get 2 cents for it, turn away from music and become a bookkeeper. I have seen... Okay, so 4 years ago I started with a label. Out of the people that I wanted to recruit 4 years ago. And that said that they were going to do everything by themselves. 0 of them have made it. And I'm talking about hundreds of people now. And most of them have left music. I could make a very long list of people that I had Zoom calls for, A&R calls, if to see if they wanted to sign and become musicians. Most are not making music anymore, and the very few that do are doing so unsuccessfully. I think this will be the new default. The new default will be that people come into music, dabble a little bit, release a few songs here and there, not be successful, then leave and do a normal job. And this is what's ultimately going to drive that number down. And then there's going to be less and less musicians, as everybody essentially says. Music is something that, where you can't make money anymore. You can really not make money anymore. Less and less people will come in. Maybe the number goes down from the 5.5 million, maybe down to 1 million releasing artists. And then in 10 years from now, we might be arriving at the situation to where if you released your music, you actually have a chance to find some listeners' ears. But then again, we have the situation, and I'm also predicting that emerging economies, places in Asia and Africa, people will then come onto the market and they will make music at home, and they will be replacing the artists that are kind of like getting whittled out in the Western Hemisphere, and they will replace them because for them $100 a month is fine. So you'll see an influx of people that are willing to do music, to make music for $100 a month. And it's not going to be Americans. It's going to be people from Africa. It's going to be people from low-income countries, because once these countries are industrialized enough to have access to Western technology, they will be able to let their creativity go. And I think that is going to be the new emerging markets, because musicians in the Western world are not going to be a thing. So quite a few things that I think are gonna change. Major labels, by the way, let's talk about them as well, are going to continue exactly what they're doing right now. They're going to work together with Spotify. They're going to place their fake artists so that they get into Billboard. They're going to continue to make billions. And the reason why their business model doesn't change is because they control the industry. They also don't really recruit artists and then try to make them, then hope that they're very qualified and make good music and one day become something. They just buy actors and then invest money in them. They'll buy an actor, make music for them, tell them how to dance and how to sing, and then say, okay, get on the stage. We're going to pump 10 million up your ass in advertisement, and you're going to be a star. Here you go, Dua Lipa, and it works every single time. But that business model has never been the business model of the indies. The indies actually were always looking for people that were actually making good music themselves, whereas the majors were usually looking for people that can front a project, to where there would be professional producers and professional songwriters that would do everything for the artist, and the artist is mostly like a dancer. Even many very beloved artists have never written a song for themselves. So if you want to have major label success, a great way to do that is to look extremely good and be able to dance really well, by the way. because this is what they're looking for. They're looking for people that look really good and can dance. Because this is what you as the artist have to do in a live concert environment. You have to be there yourself, so you have to look good, and you kind of like have to move. But you don't have to sing, you don't have to make music, you don't have to compose, you don't have to write lyrics, none of that. All of that is done for you. So they're essentially outsourcing everything that could be outsourced for an artist and having it done by professionals, and have the artist do as little as possible, because that makes them as replaceable as possible. And it also means that there's just a very large pool of good-looking dancers. Watched a documentary yesterday, like Jennifer Lopez, very much that career. Dua Lipa, very much that career. Started as a good-looking dancer, caught the eye of somebody in the music industry, and they said, "Hey, we got this project. Do you want to front it? We'll make all the songs for you, and then you're gonna do a little bit of you're gonna move the lips and dance." And Style and Biker says, there's a great guy doing streams that plays guitar and sings in Las Vegas. He's so talented. There's a lot of people that are very, very talented, and a lot of them are here on Reddit as well. And I talk to a lot of them. And what can I say? Without sounding Reddit go red. As I start talking to Reddit and reading the questions, it kind of like craps out. Okay, I'm gonna have to wait a little bit because I'm specifically answering questions on Reddit right now. So I'm hoping the connection is gonna be back. Hold on, reconnect. Attempting reconnection. Reconnection successful. Okay, there we go. Hello on Reddit. Hello on Reddit. Welcome. Hello and welcome back, Reddit. Reddit artists. I have pursued various people on Reddit and asked them if they wanted to talk with me, if they wanted to have an option to work with a label, they want to become a professional, a lot of these things. Not a single person performing on Reddit has ever expressed interest in working with us professionally, or anybody else for that matter. During some of the calls that I had, I did mention a very few basics that they needed to do or that they should take to heart. And everything I ever said bad was going to happen usually happens to them. So the number one thing that happens to them is burnout. Usually people start extremely over enthusiastic with streaming, and they say, yeah, I'm going to stream 5 times a week, I'm going to stream 6 times a week, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And a year later they're completely burned out and they're like, I can't do it anymore, it's bullshit, I hate it, I don't want to do it anymore. They're being made irrelevant that looks better than them. They find out that even though there's 20,000 people watching them on Reddit, it doesn't translate into any money, and eventually they have to go back to their job. And they cannot understand how it is that they have 15,000 viewers on Reddit, and yet they have to go to McDonald's and work there. And all of these classical mistakes that people in the creative industry can make, they're making them all. And I'm not even replying on their threads anymore to where they're saying this, they're saying that, because all I would be able to say is I told you so. And if I do that, people will not like me. So I don't. The point is that being a professional entertainer and playing a guitar on Reddit are two very different things. And if you want to become a professional entertainer, it's a profession. It's not something you decide to be one day. It's something that you learn. It's something that you work towards. Milli Vanilli 5.0, ja, genau. And this is the sad thing with Reddit. I still know and like a lot of the people. I'm not going to say any names now. That still know me, that started streaming with me, that are doing a great job, that I would like to sign for shows or for creativity. But a lot of them are very free-spirited and would never want to work in any kind of environment to where you have to do something, you know. And if you want to be successful in the entertainment industry, it's a job like everything else. You have to do a whole lot. You have to be very organized because your charisma is only going to carry you so far. If you look at Lyle, what's his name, the Green Gecko, that kind of like started around the same time as I did and had phenomenal success with a questionable show. It's kind of like flattening out. There's now like 3 people that are completely emulating his show with their own streams, and he seems to lose followers back and forth as the novelty of the Green Gecko kind of like wears off. And I don't know how many times you want to watch a show where the person just kind of like makes people say a lot of stuff online. Various issues with that, but the point is that if you want to stay relevant in entertainment, it requires a lot more than to be successful once. And this is what a lot of people don't understand when I talk with them. Because they're asking me, but who are you? You are not famous. I don't trust you. I'm like, yeah, I'm not famous, but I'm a manager. So make of that as you will. But only a famous person could tell me. I'm like, okay, go ahead. Look for a famous person to manage you. I get that regularly, that people have like their 10 minutes of fame. And then they're like, yeah, I'm gonna, and then they'll let me hear some plans. And I say to them, if you don't get your shit straight, you're going to be irrelevant in a year. Like, super irrelevant. Nobody's going to listen to your shit anymore. And it always happens. The people that can stay relevant usually are the people that get a team behind themselves. They either build it themselves, or they get signed, or they join a team or something like that. But as an entertainer, it's really not possible to stay relevant if you're just by yourself. It's just too much work. It's not possible. Style and Biker says, this man has his own gig playing at small bars in some of the popular casinos. He might be happy, make some good money. Absolutely. I think that if you love playing music live and that's what you do, and I know a lot of people who live like that, and they're really happy and they like doing it. And they do it until they're old, because it's cool. And Sussy says Rush Limbaugh looking pretty good. Yeah, I think that's the first time I've been compared to Rush Limbaugh. And also because usually people kind of like, it's fun that people always compare me to characters on the right, like or like fighting people or right-wing people like Dana White or Rush Limbaugh or something, and I'm actually somewhat of a centrist or something, but I don't know. Maybe I give off some right-wing vibes. Maybe it's the Austrian in me that is going to tell you, the Führer is coming back. I don't know. Where was I? Now I got sidetracked by that. Yeah, so do your best. Get to the chopper. I was going to go to get to him. I don't know what he says. That's the problem. I just don't know any lines. Shit, what does he say? Get to the chopper. And what else is it? Fuck. I'm not such a big fan of his movies. I don't know any lines. But he does go to the restaurant that's right on this hill here because he comes from the same town that I do. And so if you come with me to the restaurant every once in a while, you might even see him when he's here in Austria, because it's like one of his buddies has a restaurant over there, and he always goes there when he's in Austria. You know, I've never been. I think I've been. I don't know how many times people ask me about Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I just never really had a connection to him artistically or anything. I think it's great what he achieved. But our great artist Falco, you know, from Rock Me Amadeus, said it best, and that was in the 80s and the 90s, I don't know. And Falco said, whenever Arnold Schwarzenegger is in America, he's the biggest American that you can possibly imagine. And whenever he's in Austria, he's the biggest Austrian that you can possibly imagine. You know, essentially saying that Arnold Schwarzenegger, at least here, is known for being extremely two-faced, which he is as a person. Hey, James, thanks for subscribing, and thank you for being awesome. 8 months going, James. Very good, my man. Thanks, dude. Because, you know, he would go to America and he would say horrible things about Austria. And then he would come here and he would say horrible things about America. And he would kind of like think that people don't connect the dots. He's essentially just... Arnold Schwarzenegger is one of these people who likes to tell everybody what they want to hear. And he will go out of his way to tell everybody what they want to hear. He will say right-wing positions to a right-wing person. He will say liberal positions to a liberal person. And this is a reason why people don't really like him, and they think he's kind of like I don't know, he's kind of like a bitch in Austria, you know. I think he's really well liked in America, but that's because they don't know the other side, because Americans don't really watch news that are from outside of their country. So of course they wouldn't know what he says or does, but his opinion about, and he always says, you know, when he emigrated to America, this and this happened, and it was so wonderful and whatnot. You know, the stories that were told here were different. If I have a problem with somebody, I let them know up front. And James says I call them double talkers. Yeah, he's certainly that. I think he got like a little bit more mature in his age, but I can still remember the speech he held at the Republican National Convention. I think he was campaigning for Bush the father, where he was like saying things about Austria that were extremely untrue, that were complete stereotypes and absolutely shitty. And that speech was shown here in Austria, and a lot of people lost a lot of respect for him, and they said, why would this guy lie so much about us? And it's because of what Americans love to hear. Americans want to hear that he had to flee socialism. And he was like this weird person who had to get away from socialism and communism and whatnot. But if you listen to the interviews that he did when he came to America, all he talked about was lifting weights and taking drugs. And he had absolutely no political agenda whatever, because he also, quite frankly, didn't have the education to even know the difference between a communist, a socialist, and a Republican. And it was all about, you know, taking drugs and lifting weights. and then all of a sudden it was like he had to escape this horrible land where there was these borderline communist people, whatnot, So yeah, that's my thing. So it's probably the Austrian that people like most. I prefer a different Austrian. I actually prefer actor Christoph Waltz, who is known for the Hans Landa in Inglourious Bastards, and he plays in a bunch of Quentin Tarantino movies. And Christoph Waltz started his career at the Austrian Public Broadcasting Company, had some smaller roles, and he's a really great actor, and he's a really funny guy. He's actually really Austrian. When you see Christoph Waltz, he's Austrian. When you see Arnold Schwarzenegger, he's just fucking weird. And you can see a huge difference between those two, because Waltz represents this kind of like intellectual Austrian actor that is kind of like what Austrian actors are, and then you have Arnold Schwarzenegger, who represents brainless weed smokers for the most part. Of course, they both have great careers, but I think for Arnold, people know he's Austrian because of his fucking accent. With Christoph Waltz and also with me, people don't know we're Austrian because we don't have that heavy of an accent, and and Vanessa says, let's not forget the Austrian pop star DJ Ötzi. Yeah, I don't think DJ Ötzi is a thing over there in the States, No, and then of course you have this. I'm just gonna make light talk for another 10 minutes because it's so funny. You have this whole like Sound of Music bullshit that everybody's like, yeah, you're from Austria. Oh my God, the Sound of Music. And I'm like, and then every Austrian goes like this. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? And they're like, the Sound of Music, the biggest musical from Austria. And everybody's like, and they're like, the movie, you certainly, do you live near where it was made? And everybody's like, nobody knows the Sound of Music in Austria. It's a movie that was made in the United States. It's a story that's not true. It has no connection to Austria other than the fact that the family immigrated from Austria. And it never was a hit in Austria. Sound of Music is something that will make sure that everybody knows you're American if you say that in Austria. Because no one, and I repeat, no one has seen that movie here. And in that movie, they did the same thing. They changed the story to where it fit the narrative that they wanted to have at the time, that they somehow fled the country and they had to go through different trials in order to come to the promised land. When, just like in Arnold's case, probably even more with the Trapp family, Trapp was actually a submarine commander in the Navy. And he had served his time. He was also in the Nazi Party, and he was retired, put in a request to leave the country, and was granted it upon his Mauritius service, and left the country by train. And in the movie, they're fleeing across the Alps because the Nazis are chasing him. And in reality, he was one of them, and that is like, and I don't know. For such a long time, Austrians have always suffered from being from having our heritage being distorted in whatever image somebody would want it to put us, because nobody was able to just let it be how it was, because everybody had to have an opinion on, the country where Hitler came from and everything. And Vani says, I can probably never watch the film with Arnie. Yeah. So, of course, everybody was stereotyping the fuck out of Austria, and none of it was true in any meaningful way. And then when he had Arnie, the Austrian, going out there and confirming all of these stereotypes, a lot of Austrians felt really disappointed that instead of saying, look, this is not how we are. The people that you think are really good are actually Nazis, and the people that you think are Nazis are actually really good. So you could learn reality instead of making fake movies about shit and how it happened. But I think that a lot of cultures have this problem, kind of like I heard like the story of Mulan, which obviously is a very different story than what they made it now. Of course, I'm not Chinese, so I don't know it. But a lot of Chinese people were very upset that their story was changed in order to kind of like fit the narrative that the CCP and Disney wanted to push, rather than the actual story of Mulan. And this is, and now I'm coming back to culture and art. I think as an artist, you always have the responsibility to actually hold up the true art, the true and real customs and art forms of your country, of your culture, and to stand against propaganda and fakeness and lies, especially now with the war in Russia and Ukraine going on, and me being so reminded of the likeness of the American Trumpists and the Russian Putinists. There is just so many similarities between the Russian right and the American right that I am always astounded to how they say about the other that they're nothing like them when they're just usually fascists just like them. Very similar. But I think it's up for us artists to kind of like sometimes at least put a mirror in front of people and say something that they don't necessarily like, but to stand on the side of truth, beauty, and truth and beauty? The pursuit of truth and beauty? I don't know, I forgot. All right, fellas. That is it for today. That was Music Industry Monday. Very long talk on my behalf. I think the topics were interesting. I'm going to continue this show in a talk show format until the summer break, and I have to say the summer break is coming rapidly because sometime in July we're gonna go on streaming summer break, coming back at the beginning of September like we did last year, and probably 1st September, 10th September, something like that. I'm gonna come back for season 3. Season 3. And it's gonna be, or is it season 4? Fuck. No, it's season 3. It's season 3. Is it season 3? I'm gonna take the summer to think about the show, to rework it a little bit. I want to make it a little bit more interactive again. I want to also go more into the direction of podcasting and a little bit more knowledge-based and chatting-based stuff rather than just reviewing endless lines of mediocre music. I'm thinking about having guests in the studio and interviewing them and doing different things with the format. But as usual, that will all be secret, and you're going to have to come on 1st of September to see how the show has changed. We're going to be on vacation the entirety of August, and before that, I'm going to need some time to not stream in order to sort out the stuff before the holidays. So at the very most, you will see me for 1, 2, 3 weeks. 2 to 3 weeks, guys, and then I will go and break. I want to thank you all for being on the show today. As always, I want to thank James for subscribing and everybody else who's supporting us. Thank you very much for doing that. If you want to join us and chat with us outside of our streams, please go to countzerorecords.com/discord. The link is on up here. That's our Discord server where you can chat with us 24/7, and we have a lot of fun and interesting things there. Hey, I just started putting up various music guides there and articles and stuff that people are always asking me, and I made rooms for the various artistic pursuits, and I'm going to put guides in there. I think it's a really good thing. A bunch of people have already checked that out. So thank you so much. I'll see you on Wednesday. Tomorrow it's Max Beauty at 1800 Central European. I'll see you on Wednesday for the next show. Until then, stay safe, and I love you all.
So